So a question I've been getting a good bit lately, and that is as it relates to swing patterns and how we interpret those swing patterns, because swing is a wide gamut. You know, it's not just either straight or swung. There's a lot of in-betweens with that. Especially different musical styles. We have go-go music that's a different type of a bounce or swing. There's second line New Orleans funk. There's, you know, we can go over to Latin music, has a certain swing or lilt to it. You know, obviously jazz, and there's, you know, Chicago blues, and there's, you know, New York jazz, and there's Memphis blues, and there's Mississippi blues, Delta blues, all these different blues and shuffles and swings and different ways to interpret time, you know. And then you have, you know, like you have the whole Tower of Power type of funk thing, and they've got when they swing, they've got a certain swing to it. So how do you interpret that? There's several players, you know, and I'll explain in a second. Swing runs a wide gamut of straight to swing, and I think of it on a circle.
Outside of our space-time, from what would be a fourth dimensional perspective, it's a circle.
But if you look at players like Jimmy Cobb or Max, you're going to find a drummer that has more of an eighth note type of a swing to him, and I'll demonstrate that in a second. If you go on over a little bit more, like Elvin Jones is more of a rolling triplet feel of a shuffle, and then over we got like Tony Williams, who is closer to the 16th note style shuffle, real close together, real pushing, and all of these different types of swing or chang-chang-a-lang, and all of them drive to the quarter note. That's what drives, you know, swing, is the quarter note. But all of them are a different feel, and that's where the human element comes in, which I think is super cool. You can tell a player by their ride cymbal pattern, and to me, that's a really cool thing. So don't just get stuck on feeling like you have to swing a certain way. Obviously, there's quality playing and there's not quality playing, but everybody has their own feel to swing, and they interpret it the same way. And it would behoove you to research some of these players and spend time looking at you know, Roy Haynes' ride cymbal pattern, Tony Williams' ride cymbal pattern. Just sit there playing that and see how do they interpret that and whatnot. But I'll give you a couple exercises you can go through to help you understand the difference and maybe hear it a little bit better. But the best way to do it is just listen to some of those clips that were played earlier. You can clearly hear how each of them are interpreting the time differently, but they all swing. So that's where the magic is, that quarter note and making it push ahead and swing. So let's break this down, exactly what's going on with the ride cymbal pattern and why does everybody sound different, you know? And so the first thing I want to explain to you is time is better if you think about it as a circle, as well as a swing. I find it's better if you think of it in terms of a circle. Just stay with me.
Outside of our space-time, it's a circle.
And so we have a circle, and if you're thinking in terms of a clock, you have 12 o'clock. If that's straight up here at the top of the circle, and then at the bottom of the circle, and you can even use the drum head, at the top of the circle would be straight time. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And at the bottom of the circle, like 6 o'clock on a clock, would be extreme swung time, like tut 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 tut. It's that extreme side of, you know, 16th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 4, right? Going like that. Obviously, you would have me talking in your ear that sounds just like that all the time. So if we think of it like a circle, what we can do is then it's no longer swung or not swung. There's this whole gray area. We have 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way from straight to extreme swung. So we have all the way from this pattern to that extreme swung side. All right, now swing is driven by the quarter note. Okay, if you can't make that quarter note feel good, Okay, so swing music, unlike rock and pop, is driven from the top down, right? Rock and pop is driven from the bottom up. Kick, snare is really what drives the beat. In swing, it's that ride cymbal, it's that quarter note pulse. But there's a lot of area to fudge within that quarter note pulse. So we have that clock and we're thinking, okay, straight, a little not so straight, then we have not straight, then we're getting into the swung area, and then swung, and then really shuffled, and then kind of swung, kind of a little less swung, going straight all the way back up to the top, and so forth and so on. If we think of it in a circle like that, it's much easier. So we can go from straight, so that frees up. What happens in between 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock is you. See, you're somewhere in between there. Maybe you're a little bit more towards the eighth note side, maybe you're a little bit over here. Now we've talked about different players, right? So we're coming up from the straight side, coming down, we got like Max Roach, Jimmy Cobb, then coming a little bit further down, we get into the New Orleans area, kind of that in the crack feel. And to me, a straight triplet type of a swing pattern, a real good example of that is Elvin Jones, fantastic at that. And then going more closer to the extreme shuffled side would be Tony Williams, a real 16th note based ride cymbal pattern. What do these all sound like? Okay, well, if we go, I'm going to play first just a straight eighth note, and then I'm going to start to slightly swing that more like a Max Roach, Jimmy Cobb style swing. Okay, and so we have just straight eighth note. And if we start to swing that slightly, that would be what would be considered more of an eighth note type of a swing pattern. If we go a little bit past that, we have more of a triplet pattern. So always the quarter note's the driver. And you see how we're just slightly going from one to the other. Now this is a big deal because you may have someone say, hey, can you swing that but maybe not quite so hard, or can that not be such a laid back swing? Can that? So you need to be able to learn how to run that gamut, and you need to have players that you can reference, which I've already given you some great players that you can reference that you're like, oh, okay, he wants a little bit more like this of a feel, like a rolling triplet Elvin, Art Blakey type of feel, that type of a thing. If we go on a little bit further, then we have Tony Williams. Tony Williams is coming more to the 16th note side of things, and so we're sitting with that quarter note. Now, a couple of exercises that I had to really help my ear hear the difference and subdivide the difference. So we don't need to get too caught up in the semantics of this because everybody feels swing in their own way, and that's an okay thing. That's what's called human, the human element of playing, okay? I can tell right off if it's Jimmy, or if it's Roy, or if it's Max, or if it's Elvin or Tony or Art. I can tell from the ride cymbal patterns, because I've listened to them so much. Okay, so an exercise for this would be, for the eighth notes, I find if I play the upbeat of the eighth note over here, so 1, 2, 3, and straighten it out just a little bit instead of a little bit of a swing to it. Okay, that helps me keep that eighth note feel. Then we roll into the triplet area, and if we do that, I find that if I play right, left, left, right, left, right, that's alternating those triplets, right? I'm just filling in with the left hand. That helps me hear the triplet bass swing pattern. Now, if you're just starting out with swing, don't worry about this. Just get your chang-chang-a-langin' down, right? Just start to feel out swing and play along with albums that you love. But if you've been playing it for a while, and I've gotten asked this question quite a bit recently, then you need to understand the difference between the different swing patterns and be able to hear that. Now, the third one would be Tony Williams style, and I found that a good exercise for that is going to be 2 eighth notes, 1 and then 2 E and A. So they all have their different place, okay? When Jimmy Cobb played, he had, to me, a real laid-back type of a feel. Elvin, just like, it was always just this like waves, like rolling type of a feel. And Tony always, to me, was on top of that beat. So if I've got somebody saying, hey, can you push that a little bit when I'm going into a solo, I may go more into that type of a pushed ride cymbal patterns. So all of them are still swung. It's just a matter of how swung are they. And we see this in all different cultures, as I mentioned earlier. We have go-go music, which is a different type of a swung. We have Latin music, which has a lilt or a swing to it. We have Chicago-style blues. We have Memphis-style blues. We have Mississippi blues. We have Delta blues. We have New York jazz. We have Chicago jazz. You see what I'm saying? Like the different places bring their own different styles. To me, New Orleans jazz players have a different feel altogether to them when they play jazz. And like Shannon Powell is a fantastic jazz player down there. And he's got a different feel to it. So this all has to do with the nuances. So there's a couple of exercises that will help you hear them, but then the best thing to do is listen to different albums and different players and really study them and study their ride cymbal patterns and try to match up with this. The most important thing though is that you keep that quarter note pulse going and that you keep it swinging. It has to stay swinging, all right? If you want to go deeper on this stuff, there's always, I've got tons of lessons on this stuff over on my website, a few jazz tracks that will help you learn different jazz vocabulary and whatnot. You can always do that. This is just kind of a short snack. If you want to dive deep and have a full meal, you need to jump over there for the lessons. Leave me a comment, hit that thumbs up button if this helped you. Share it with another person that you think maybe it might help, or maybe you're a teacher and you've gotten that question before. But no matter what you do, I'll see you here in the next video.